Yeah, my name is Raphael, and I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. So like for me and my story, I came into CoDA because I was trying to, for my experience, I was trying to change my partner, and I didn't know that. And I was like, well, dude, she's not doing this, and she doesn't get it, and all these things, and they kept telling me keep coming back, and so like I was, but I also wasn't. I was focused on another recovery. Um, because before I got into CoDA, I used to be in addiction. So drugs and alcohol were basically my coping mechanism. So when I would feel a certain type of way, I would take a little something, something, and then boom, I didn't really have to focus on that. So when I'd gotten sober, uh, and I'm grateful for that, I had another recovery program allow me to get to that place. I wanted more, but it's kind of like I hadn't hit my rock bottom yet. And so, going about my life, I'm in this relationship with this girl, and I'm like, I just want to do this, or I wish she would do that. And I would always like need her to validate me by just doing the little things that like I thought I needed that I at the end of the day I didn't need. Um, and so sorry first and foremost because I'm a little scatterbrained. We got our son, he's 6 weeks old, so that's been a whole task and adjustment. So give me a little grace. But anyways, so I hadn't hit my rock bottom yet, really, when it came down to the CoDA part. I thought I'd still understood. I had everything, figured out. I didn't. Totally delusional. Still had like a victim mentality as well, and I just couldn't get the grasp of that. So it's about a year and a half ago. Our relationship came to an end, and I had found out, she was in a whole nother relationship with someone else. She was going to meet sponsees, and it wasn't sponsees, it was another guy. And so that really broke me, man. And I remember, I was really grateful. I was like, man, I don't want to drink and drug, so that's great. But of course, I did want to use human beings to validate my feelings. And I did for like probably a month, and I felt like so sick that like that I'm trying to fill this void, this God-sized hole, as they say, with other people, and it wasn't working. And I just felt worse and more depressed, and all these things, and self-worth just dropping more and more. And so, anyways, I was like, you know what, I really want to look deeper into this CoDA thing, and so started doing some more intense work, and basically finding out a lot about myself to where I don't today it's different for me. I don't look for that validation nowhere near as much. Still do, by the way, like not perfect by any means. uh so it's a lot of do as I say, not as I do in my story. But I'm really grateful for where I'm at today, and that's thanks to CoDA, thanks to all the people around me, the men and women that have surrounded me and helped shape me for me. um yeah, my mother and my father, we've had since I was a kid, just had this relationship where my father would please us with finances and take care of everything. Like, hey, get away financially. I'll take care of you. And my mother was a bit hot and cold, and I think she's one of us. I can't sit here and say she is, but I mean, if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. But so always having that around my family of like everyone's kind of going through their own thing, and me not being able to figure out what was going on with me, and being afraid to talk to a therapist and all that stuff like that. I felt so alone. And I remember coming in Dakota, and you would hear these things, and you'd be like, is that person, do they know me? Like, I was already paranoid before, but add drugs and alcohol to it and then stop doing that, you're more paranoid anyways. You're like, what? But I was like, man, how does this person, they know me? They know me. They're talking about me, and they're not. They're talking about their experience. But the good news for me is that okay, I'm not alone in this. My brain's not the only one that acts like this. It doesn't function this way. So anyways, bouncing back and forth after the relationship, working on myself a lot, and I'm really diving deep, but I had this huge resentment. Like, I mean, like it was massive. And I can't get rid of resentment like that. I wish I could, but thank God I couldn't, because at the same time, it helped me flow and navigate through more things in life. I understood that I couldn't let go of the resentment just like that. It's heavy. I need God's help, higher power, as you would say. Excuse me if the God word is offensive. Because at the end of the day, honestly, I kind of like try not to even put a name on it because it kind of ruins it for me. But at times I use God. We're in the southern Louisiana, so um, but at the same time, I don't know, I just kind of lost my track. But so yeah, I didn't know where to go with the whole resentment thing, and I had it, and I just didn't want to sit in it, and I didn't want to just heavily stick to one program, because that sounds obsessive, and then therefore I'm really just trading one thing for another. And so I spread it out my things to where I had like a pretty healthy balance of life, which balance to me is like a foreign language, that even that word, because I finding balance to me, it sounds like peace. Like I can't, it's especially today's day, it's like that's pretty amazing if I can find a balanced day with a newborn. But thank God for my fiance and people around me. But and so going through that, having that resentment, praying daily. I remember there was this prayer I was doing. I was saying for my ex and the guy that she was with. We were saying, me and my ex partner would always say, oh, I want to. We want to name our. If we ever had a girl, a Magnolia. And so what I would do is I would say this prayer, very personal, very painful prayer, and not in a sense of like torture, but in a sense of so much freedom for her. Hopefully, I can get that freedom within me. And so I would say, God, look, I pray her and him, have a healthy, happy relationship and all the things, blessings, yada, yada. And then I would say specifically, hopefully one day, I hope that she has the freedom to detach the word Magnolia from me. And that if she wants to use that name one day, she can for her child. Because I think that was where it came from, is that it was from her. And and so I did that for a while. And I remember one day I was driving and I heard our old song playing, and instead of like my bones hurting or whatever it may have been, like where you go in that shock and you're like, oh God, shit, like it hurts. It hurts. What's going on in my body? It's trauma. And and I remember smiling and I was like, oh yeah, oh wow. So I'd made some wrongs in the relationship, and so I talked to my spiritual advisor, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you need to make this amends? You need to make your wrongs right. Get that freedom from that." And I remember when he first told me, I was like, and excuse my language, I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna say it because of the recording," but I said something where he was like, which was typical me, but I'm grateful for him to guide me to that point to where I did end up doing that, and I got a lot of freedom, and she got honest, and it was nice. You know what I mean? It was a nice conversation, and at the end of it, she wanted to still be she wanted to be friends. I didn't want that. I got to a point, thank higher power, that I got to this point where I was okay with myself not having her approval, having her around, or any kind of attachment to her. Uh, Little cliff note: read the book Untethered Souls. It's amazing. It's helpful. It helped me tremendously. Um, and so that built character within myself so much, and I couldn't have done that without the steps of CoDA and the people around me. And so during that time, I was like, okay, well, so what's the next big thing? Like I have all these little groups and other communities of recovery, but what can I bring to CoDA? And so I'd go to a lot of CoDA meetings, and they were great, and but it was mostly ladies, and it wasn't much men, and the men would be kind of afraid to share, or didn't want to say the wrong thing, or whatever it may have been. And so, and I could relate with that. So I was like, well, look, let's start a little CoDA men's book study / step study, whatever it is, just a safe place for them not to be in their head about saying stuff or whatever it may be. Um, and so we did, and we're coming up on a year right now with that, and it's been pretty amazing. We've had a lot of guys come in and out. They're like, I don't know if I'm codependent or not. And usually if you wind up in a codependency meeting, you're probably codependent. But like I said, it's not my story. It's theirs. And I've met a lot of really cool people. I've had experiences with people where I relate with it so much, and then understanding what I went through, I'd be able to use that as a tool to help others and connect with others. And so through this whole process working with CoDA, it's me building healthy relationships. And I've never had that in my entire life. I grew up in a home that was it was good till it wasn't good. And it became very unhealthy. And so I picked up on a lot of those traits. And by all means, you ask my fiance, I wasn't gonna put her on because she'd throw me under the bus. But I have my moments. I do. I have my moments. I have my moments where I still that old part of me. It's a little bit of toxicity there that I have to fight. It's like almost, and I tell her this all the time. It's like I want to kill my narcissism to love you forever. And that's something that I'm aware of, and that it's these things that without the prayer and meditation, I wouldn't be able to see that. Without the 12 step, I wouldn't be able to hear all my defects come right back at my face. Or every time I want to judge a sponsee or someone like that, it's like, oh, you've done that. Reminder. And so that also brings me back to where I was at when I was in that unhealthy relationship. Me and my fiance can't even speak. Me and my fiance celebrate 1 year together tomorrow, and also we have a 6-week-old little boy, and so without CoDA, I wouldn't be able to have this, the boundaries and our relationship on a solid foundation without the help of that. It would have just been lost to the wind. I mean, really. And then it would have been able to show me where my part is, where I could make things right, change behavior and be better, but also where do I stand and not budge, and where do I stand on the ground? Because I've found in my experience in my life is that, like, if I wanted someone bad enough, here's the line in the sand, and then they hit it, and then I kind of push it back, and then they hit it, and I push it back, and they hit it, and I push it back. So eventually I'm falling off a cliff and then empty inside and wondering why they don't make me feel right. Well, I know why. It was because I wasn't taking care of me. Um, Taking care of me is extremely important to me today. Um, I can't show up with my partner. I can't show up without, as a father to my child. It's kind of like that airplane thing where you put on the oxygen mask and then you put on someone else's. You need to take care of yourself first. And real quick, what that looks like for me, which by the way has been like up, down, all around with my daily reprieve. But what my daily reprieve usually looks like before the child was I wake up, I'd pray, I'd meditate, I'd go on a nice jog and really have my mind set for the day. Where could I be helpful to others? Help me be aware of some things that I'm not seeing. Guide me. How would you have me be today? And then I usually would call one or two people and talk. I want to get out of myself and I want to be there for others, which paradoxically helps me more than anything. So I don't know, my life's it's amazing, but at the same time, it has nothing to do with me. And I also know that that's just a moment, that this amazing moment will pass, and then there'll be shitty moments, and I know that they will pass as well. Um, I want to say I could talk for an hour, but I can't do that. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come speak to y'all and talk to y'all. I still don't know what the hell I'm doing in my life. I'm just kind of taking it as it comes, and then that works out how it is. But yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's like you don't fall in the river. You don't drown by falling in the river. You drown by staying submerged. And so it's more or less of like, okay, what am I gonna do about it? And is it I'm gonna allow that to happen and be victim to myself and to others, or am I gonna stand on some boundaries and principles and love of myself? And yeah, so I don't know, but I really appreciate it again. Thank y'all so much. My name's Raphael and I am codependent.